Hello and welcome one and all, and welcome back to yet another episode of Kamen Rider Saber, where we're going to talk about an episode of Kamen Rider Saber, or the episode that we just got. And we are now on episode 23, Raging Hand of Ruin. So this is the premiere of Primitive Dragon, a new form for this month. And, well, let's talk about the episode. It starts off honestly pretty strong. Following up a bit of stuff from the past few weeks. Basically, Daisenji is saying, hey, maybe if I examine Rekka, because it has the ability to split people too, and because Yuri won't let me examine him, I could maybe figure out a way for all the swords to split people from Megiddo. So, that's some progress. We don't have any confirmation that they can yet, but, it's some progress on that front, which I think is always important to be moving forward towards a goal, which right now their goal is trying to save people. They also mentioned the people who are already gone or who are already Ultra Books, and Toma redoubles his efforts to try to save them, which again is Toma's prerogative. He wants to be, or he has a duty to be a hero, and he's going to fulfill that, which, it's still a pretty cool moment for his character, or at least consistency for his character. But for the moment, they think they should probably go see the leader of the Source Logos, who we know was named Master Logos, which we also learn later in the episode is not really a name, but more of a title that person possesses. Anyway, they need to find a way to get to Southern Base, so they contact Ogami, who basically slips them his warp book so that they can get into Southern Base past its barrier. An interesting note, the Megiddo have the same idea. They basically, specifically, Storios wants to get into Southern Base to get some forbidden text for some unknown plan. So for that, he co-ops Zuos and Legiel by promising them that they could have their bouts with their respective rider rival. In Zuos' case, he wants to fight Rentaro, and Legiel wants to have his run back against Toma, which, understandable, and it's also kind of cool considering the fact that, Legiel uses Legendary Beasts, and Toma obviously uses Legendary Beast slot, and Zuos uses regular animals, and obviously, Rentaro uses the Beast slot. It also makes sense that basically Storios wouldn't be involved in this rivalry stuff right now because his slot rival or rider comparison is dead in the series, killed by Caliber. So, again, he doesn't really have any need to be on the rival train. He's the master schemer behind the scenes, at least at present, even though he's not really behind the scenes. Anyway, basically his plan is to have Zuos rampage across the city to draw out somebody who can get him at Southern Base. He draws out Rentaro and Ren, which is going to be annoying, and Zuos gets to have his fight against Rentaro. But, that little book portal thing that they leave behind when they're transporting, when they leave out, Storios just walks in that thing like, whoop. It's kind of funny to see. You'd think those have better security features considering the fact they're dropping into an active battlefield. But no, they really don't, apparently. I guess if you're just fast enough, you can slip past their security defenses. Oh god, this is comical. Also, one thing I didn't mention is we had an early shot of Master Logos addressing a crowd of people, and Reika, I'm going to call these people acolytes because they don't believe that they're riders, and I don't know if they're swordsmen or not. They don't seem to use swords in the episode, so they might just be followers of the way of the Swords Logos without being swordsmen of themselves. Basically think the air acolytes from Avatar The Last Airbender, or more specifically Legend of Korra, who follow the airbender ways and teachings, but are not airbenders of themselves. Although in this case, it'll be different because the air acolytes follow the philosophy, while airbending in itself is more of a genetic trait. And in this case, I don't know how they decide successors. I don't have a limited amount of swords, so they basically must go around snatching up orphans every so often, especially with Rentaro's backstory. Anyway, the acolytes implications aside, Toma and Daisenji go out. Yuri is dealing with the Zero situation and takes Mei along with him. And Legiel, Storios, also ends up in Southern Base. And obviously he sets off the alarms because Megiddo, I would hope at least they have Megiddo sensing alarms. Or he's just that brazen, just walk through the base without really giving a fuck. He meets with Master Logos, who he says is this generation's Master Logos. So again, it's more of a title than a name. And something interesting Master Logos says, he refers to Storios as one of the first, whatever that means. It can mean a number of things. It can mean one of the first swordsmen, one of the first Megiddo, or maybe, long shot here, one of the first Master Logos. That would be a bit of a long shot. It would be entertaining as hell, though. But yeah, Storios is there to get the book. Master Logos basically opens the way for him to get said book because he's scheming something behind the scenes. Because while the chaos is going on, Toma is separated from Daisenji and meets with a random acolyte who lets him through a doorway so that he can eventually have a confrontation with Storios. Now, I want to bring an interesting point that I 60% sure of, that the acolyte might be actually Master Logos. Again, Master Logos, he's a character with a hood on him, so we don't see his face, and typically that's only done if the reveal is going to be something shocking. Obviously, it won't be any characters we're introduced to currently, so it has to be someone relatively new, and someone that can slip in the shadows, so potentially one of the acolytes. Another thing is that this acolyte was only seen by Toma. He wasn't seen by anyone else. He waited till Toma was separated from Daisenji and specifically set up a confrontation for Toma and Storios, when the only person who knew where Storios would be Master Logos. Now, you could argue that he's just a devout follower of Master Logos, following his own super specific orders, but another thing I should mention is that we do see a bit of a shot at Master Logos. He still has the hood up, so we can't see his face, but we can see at least a little bit of his hair, and it's somewhat in the same styling as that random acolyte. So again, rolling it all back, my current theory is that this random acolyte is in fact Master Logos. He's planning something involving Toma. Obviously he's scheming, but he might not be a specific master. We don't know any confrontation. We don't have any confirmation on whether she's specifically following Master Logos, somebody else, or whether Master Logos is planning something either out of trying to stop Reika and them, stop the Megiddo, or he could just be bored and trying to entertain himself, considering what happens. But anyway, Storios has the Forbidden Tome, and he confronts Toma. They're about to fight, but then Legiel shows up and is like, "Yo, I want my run back," and then fights Toma, because they get transported outside the base into the Toei-specific rock quarry, because it's always a fucking quarry in these Toku shows. No matter what show you're watching, if it's Toku, it's going to end up in a rock quarry. I know why logistically it is, but this gets kind of annoying when you see the same spot, those different quarries. But I wonder how many quarries there are in Japan to have this many different quarries. Okay, anyway, let's bet the quarry. So Toma has Forbidden Tome and opens it. Now, Yuri, who is fighting Zuos, or more specifically, he's fighting Yenzan, because as soon as Yuri shows up on the scene, Ren breaks off and fighting Zuos, who's obviously ignoring him in order for fighting Rentaro. He breaks off and fighting Zuos and beelines it to Yuri because, he's like, "Look, if I beat you, get your sword and take it back, then, that's lost one of my missions." Even though he knows that Yuri is actually a good guy and Zuos is probably a bigger threat in the long term, he decides to just say, "Fuck it, you're not the Sword of Light." Because, Ren has to be the most unlikable of the swords right now, apparently. But, yeah, basically, their little four-way fight, which isn't really a four-way fight, gets broken up because they sense, or more specifically, see the giant CGI skeletal hand that's summoned whenever someone opens the book. So Toma ends up with the book and the various scuffles that are going on, and opens it because, why not? Interestingly enough, there seems to be some weird effect. Like, the book glows and it seems to respond to the book that Toma has back at home, which, if I believe I'm right, this is the book of exposition Toma was reading back a few episodes ago, where we learned the origin story of the Blades. I forget what specific episode it was. It was like maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, where we got a bit of the world's backstory, the big book of exposition, as I'm going to call it. Anyway, the book seems to respond, the other book responds, and the book forms, the Forbidden Tome forms into a new Wonder Ride book, in this case, Primitive Dragon. And Toma, in the middle of all that, sees random flashes of potential memories to a young child who might be young him. We don't know what that's about. It could have been there for effect to show Toma being controlled by the book, but it is an interesting effect nonetheless, and could have story implications if it's actually important. Anyway, Toma is obviously possessed by the book. His voice is deeper. He's being seemingly puppeted around, and he transforms into Primal Dragon, Primal Dragon, Brave Dragon. Okay, so why do I have to specify Brave Dragon with that? Well, so the thing about Primal Dragon is interesting because it has like we open the book, has a little slot, you can slide another Wonder Ride book in, because the Primal Dragon's whole thing is that it's clutching the other Wonder Ride books. Now you can put whatever Wonder Ride book you want into the slot, and we've already seen scans and minor spoils that we see a Blue Lion, or at least the Lion Ride book that that Rentaro uses. So, eventually Toma's going to get his hands on that and put that into the, Primitive Dragon slot. So, we know that little part is interchangeable. Another thing we know is that you do see a bit of the book on the right side of the suit when, that little hand from the chest is clutching that right side. So you do see, like, the title and some extra detailing from the Wonder Ride book that was inserted into the Primitive Dragon Wonder Ride book. That's a mouthful right there. So technically speaking, this form has many different forms, but the only thing that changes is the thing on the side. Not even the sounds change apparently, which is sad in all honesty. But I can get over it. Anyway, Toma fights Legio because Legio's there. Storios is trying to back him up. But, then Zuo shows up, and obviously he's followed by everyone else, and Toma unleashes his full power and sends a shockwave out that knocks everyone out of their transformations. Because of control, or whatever. He has no control over the power, and that's where we end the episode, with Toma trying to figure out what exactly the hell just happened to him. So, general thoughts on the episode itself, it's fine. It's really just there as a plot reason to show off a new form for Saber, as well as potentially drop some lore bits of stuff that are going on outside of Toma's general vision, which really isn't much, but seems to be some internal conflict as well as Logos that we're not 100% sure of. It could be internal conflict, it could not be, it could just be Rick as a dick. Either way, there's potentially some more stuff being hinted at in the shadows. Now, as for Primitive Dragon itself, I have to admit, I'm a big sucker for Berserker forms and Kamen Rider. Fang is probably my favorite double suit, just because the whole white and black contrast has going for it. Putotera has my favorite theme out of all the combo themes, as well as Oza's strongest form. So Dead Heat's probably the weakest one, but I don't know if that 100% counts as a Berserker form or not. Dead Heat from Drive. I love everything about the Hazard Trigger. Like, it's probably one of my favorite token devices of all time. I love the hybrid. I love the the thing, when it starts going off with the sounds. I love the Hazard Trigger. And finally, we have last year's Mental Cluster Hopper, or at least last season's Mental Cluster Hopper, which was a really cool form. Now, the thing about Berserker forms I always adore is how the show writes around them. either the villains need to trick the hero or do some convincing plan to force them to either remove all of their equipment and only leave behind their berserk powers, or, you can just cheese the boss. So yeah, basically that's part of why I like these little storylines when they introduce the berserk form, because it's always interesting to see how they write around it. Like, is it something that the writer can control potentially? Is it something out of complete control that they just have to get used to? Are there levels of control? Stuff like that. Like, you saw a lot of that, typically, in stuff like Build, which Build basically decided to create a new form to control the power that he got from Acid Trigger. But still, it's just nice to see, thought being brought in to explain why they can do this, either why they can do this now or why haven't they been able to do this before, stuff like that. And overall, I like Primitive Dragon, and I really love his henshin sounds. Like Saber has had some good henshin sounds, good to great henshin sounds, but I think the one for next week might be one of the best henshin sounds. For this week, might be one of the best henshin sounds that we've had in Saber so far. We're still pretty midway, or at least early midway through the season, so something else could come up and top it. But right now, in terms of the series as a whole, for henshin sounds, my top three are Draconic Knight, Primitive Dragon, which shut up real quick, and finally, I don't have a third one for Saber. Maybe the Wonderite combo Saber uses, or more specifically, maybe the one that Rentaro uses. I'm more favorable towards Rentaro's ones because of it just being more fun. So yeah, that is the episode. Again, I liked it despite how simple it was, and honestly can't wait for more because I'm kind of curious to see where the other one goes. Yeah, they're both curious to see where the other one goes, and I'm curious to see where they both go. And that is episode 23. A lot of setup, some interesting lore dropped potentially, and overall a fun time all around. Although the best part would probably have had to been Primitive Dragon itself with its cool and very, very different look for Saber, which is always fun to see. So yeah, that's the episode. And with that, I'll see all you guys next time. Next week looks to be a bit of a banger, although I also think it might cut off the Berserk form storyline a lot earlier than I would like. Oh well, till then, everybody.